All right, so we're going to start with a quick lesson on just vocabulary, notation, just to make sure that as we start this geometry class, we are all on the same page when I write things and when you and your classmate write things. So the first one we're going to talk about is a point. Okay, you know what a point is. I need to switch markers. That one was not the best choice. So a point is going to look like this. It's just a point in space. Okay. Now, when we label that, and this is how I recommend what it looks like. Okay. And how we name it. Okay. So we have a point, and often it'll have some sort of letter next to it. So let's say this is point B. Okay. So we say point B. We write it just like that. Okay, we also have lines. Okay, so a line looks like this. It has arrows on each side. Sometimes it has points on it, like A and B. So this is line AB. Okay, we can also write that. I'll make a little note here. We can also write that with A and B with the line symbol over it. Okay. The next one we're going to do is a line segment. Okay, a line segment has points at the end. It does not continue on forever like a line. It has points at the end. So this one we're going to call segment CD, and we're going to name it CD with just a straight line, no arrows on top. Now, I should point out that we could also name this DC in the same way that we could also name this BA. Either way is fine. Okay. The next one we're going to do is a ray. A ray has a point on one side and it continues on in the other direction with an arrow. Now it'll have another point on here. So if we named this one, let's say PQ, we would say ray PQ. And we would name it, when we name it this time, we're going to say PQ. Notice that I'm trying to match my picture. I could also name it QP, but this time my arrow goes the other direction. It's a little cut off right there. I'm going to move this over. QP. Okay. So those are your points, lines, line segments, and rays. The next one we're going to get into is angles. I'm going to move myself just to the side slightly so that you can read those words. So an angle is going to be something like this. This is two rays that are connecting at a point. Okay, now we call this point the vertex. I'm going to give this a name. I'm going to say A, B, C. And we can say angle ABC. Okay, we're following that kind of like a road map. We can also name it the other way. We can say angle CBA. And then lastly, we can name this with just that letter B. Okay. And sometimes you'll see a little number in here. We could do that. I'll show you that when we get a little further. One other thing to point out here is notice all of these letters are capitalized. Okay, so no lowercase letters here. We use lowercase letters for something different in geometry. And then one more thing is I will give this a name. We call this the vertex. Okay, so pause this video right here. Make sure to write down some notes here because this is super important for you to know and recognize these in some symbols. So pause right here and make sure to get these down. I'm going to go ahead and erase this. All right, so you paused the video, you came back, you're playing it again, and we're going to talk about a few more things. So we're going to talk about what is a midpoint. Midpoint. So a midpoint is when you have a line segment. So I'm going to draw a line segment right here. We have a line segment. I'm going to call it X, Y this time. So we would say this is segment X, Y. Okay. A midpoint is right here in the center. Okay. So that's my midpoint. I'll call it M for now, but you could have it be named anything. Okay. And that midpoint is in the exact middle. And the way we talk about this in geometry is we would say segment XM is the same length as segment MY. We have a special symbol we use for that. We use this symbol and it's called congruent. Okay, so we say segment XM is congruent to segment MY because point M is the midpoint. Now we do one other special thing in geometry, and I'm going to use a quick other color to show this. We'll use a red. We use this. Okay, and these are called tick marks. Okay, and tick marks mean that they are congruent. Means congruent. Okay, so anytime you see a segment and it has those tick marks, it means that it's congruent to the one that is has the matching tick mark. So you could also see something like a rectangle. Okay, so a rectangle is made of 4 segments. Okay, and this segment is congruent to this segment. And this segment is congruent to this segment. Okay, and we use those different marks to say, well, this is congruent to something, but it's not congruent to this. It's congruent to this instead. Okay, so that's some things to know about midpoints, congruence, things like that. Let's move to the word bisector. That one's an important one in geometry we're going to use too. So a bisector cuts into 2 congruent pieces, okay? And so in some cases, we have a segment bisector. So if I had a segment here, we'll call it XY again. And I know where the midpoint is, and I have a line that goes through it, okay? This line, we'll call this AB. This line AB, we're going to use the line symbol since it keeps going, is the bisector, or you can say bisects segment XY. You can say that either way, okay? So pause right here, make sure you have this stuff written down. I'm going to make one more picture over here for one more vocabulary word. All right, so you've paused and come back. Here we go. So this one's going to be one more special word, perpendicular bisector. Okay, so if I have a segment, okay, we'll call this segment AB. And it has a midpoint here in the middle. And I have another segment that runs right through there. But in this case, I have an extra symbol. Okay, so I already have my tick mark because this is congruent to this, since this is a midpoint. Okay, but I have another segment over here. We'll call this CD. Okay, we have this symbol right here. This symbol means perpendicular. Okay, and that also means I can't spell perpendicular. Okay, that means that this is a 90-degree angle. Okay, so if it's a bisector and it's at a 90-degree angle, we have a special word for that, perpendicular bisector. So hopefully you've got these notes and you can move right on to the next.